I entered us into this conversation referencing this really beautiful song that you produce, and it's really important, meaningful impact on me. And we're talking about the kind of music that can be in psychedelic experiences and ceremonial psychedelic experiences. We're talking about the music of nature. But music is a much broader thing. The kinds of music, qualities of music can be broad in their genre and in their impact. Like when I sit down and listen to an album that you've produced, I have a very different experience than when I sit down and listen to like Lorna Shore, like just like really heavy metal, like, a different kind of experience than when I sit down and listen to, say, lo-fi hip hop or uh, R&B from the late 70s or something. Um, so there's a lot of different kinds of music that has come through the human experience over time. And in the midst of that, industry has arisen, and out of industry, there's money, and out of money, there can be contortions of art that don't always align with this deeper thing that you're talking about, especially when things get heavily commercialized and become, say, like contorted by this is, my opinion, sort of contorted by the consumer capitalist engine to become products for sale rather than something maybe that is from this deeper place. Now, I'm making a lot of assumptions, and feel free to check each one of them if you don't feel like I'm going a little off base. But the reason I'm saying this is because I recently watched this movie called Sinners. It's like new in the theaters right now. And it has a really heavy sort of like inclination towards music, particularly blues music from the sort of like deep south of the 30s, I believe. And part of the narrative of this movie includes sort of music bringing us together in this ancient way. And there's a scene in it, which I won't describe for people who don't want to have it ruined, where music and dance is coming together in a way that it struck me that it was missing in my life, in a way that maybe it was kind of there before, but it made me wonder if it's just missing in the sort of deluge of music that just happens in our lives all the time because of just the advancement of audio technology, production technology, the market of music, etc. And I'm wondering if you also, or in a different way, perceive that humanity might have lost contact with something in music that previously we had a better hold of and isn't as present now in the music most of us encounter or how we encounter that music.
Yeah, I mean, most obviously, we consume more than we create. And before the advent of recorded music, of course, 100 some plus years ago, we only created largely, and we gathered around and sang songs, or we were probably engaged in it in some way. And that was very natural and normal. So now we're mostly just paying other people to do it for us and listening to it, or maybe not even paying for it at all, but we're consuming. And then there's so much of it, just that's pretty different. I mean, it's more present than it's ever been any time in human history, in our lives, in the world, whether background music or just songs on the phone and in entertainment things we watch. It's everywhere. In cars, while on the go. But it's also more unconscious, and I think the direct engagement with it. So, yeah, the biggest thing is people aren't actually recognizing that they're musicians too. Whether they think they're any good at it, they are. And so they've abdicated that responsibility over to quote unquote professionals. And that's a big difference. And then we're in like a peak content phase. I think we're moving towards that with AI very rapidly. And soon we'll be in a place where perhaps all of these different industries and ways we deal with music is completely saturated. And it's almost a moot point what role humans even play in it at all. And it's an open question how much humans care about other humans making things that are difficult to make. That will depend right there on the survival of a lot of artists as far as professionally speaking. And maybe then it would move back to where people are only making music hyper locally, like literally for themselves and their family and their friends, because they can stumble upon the fact that they enjoy that. But the vast majority of people would be just as pleased listening to an artificial created song. I mean, literally every minute or every day, whatever, you could wake up, instead of having your release radar once a week, it's sort of like, these are the songs we wrote for you today that we think you'll like. And for the average person, you probably will like them,
Mm-hmm.
and maybe it's even connected to like what you need. Like you had bad sleep, or so you need a little energy, or you're
It's like
feeling a little down,
integrated
or
in all of your metrics,
yeah,
historical and bio. Yeah.
absolutely. I mean, why not? Just Apple Watch or Oura Ring or whatever. I'm not saying I want any of this, but I could see all this happening because it's just an extension of like the Spotify DJ thing they have now. It's just stupid, where it's just like an AI voice saying things between songs. But that's what they're going for and starting to go in this direction of. But they're already like getting in the direction of having AI artists and pretending they're not AI artists, so they don't have to pay them,
Mm.
and shoving them into playlists. And even some of the labels, major labels, are starting to look at like having their own AI artists, which is also somewhat ridiculous. But that even goes into like, will people care if, from a branding or a fame point of view, if the person or thing AI that they're admiring as an artist isn't even human anymore? And some of that's already happening on social media, where it's bots talking to bots, or fully artificial people, so to speak.
Well, I mean,
And
it's in some respect, people have long since dehumanized the objects of their fame. They're no longer people; they're this other thing in their
yeah,
mind, right? So,
well, that's a great point. I mean, yeah, we've sort of been teeing this up for a long time. I mean, Trump is part of that in a way. He's kind of literally a TV character. Uh,
literally a pro wrestler at one point.
yeah, and that's so.
Yeah.
In many ways, he was this fantasy thing that we're continuing to fantasize about. And for some people, they prefer that in a way. They've turned it into an entire universe and reality. So it's just, we made all this stuff,
Mm-hmm.
and we're giving it power and more. We're just pushing it forward in the name of shareholder prices, essentially corporate structure. And so, for better or worse, how did that gets back to this conversation about music. Um, I think it will profoundly change things when music, as any other art form or any other thing, like, what does it mean for human culture when things that are typically quite difficult to do become very simple and easy? How will we value them? Certainly, let alone 5, 10 years, but a few generations from now, when people don't even know, you know, of course, certain people will still want to sing and write songs and do it because they like it. Just, I like doing it. But, um, yeah, it'd be a really, shall we say, interesting turn, and I can feel this concrescence that we're sort of heading towards very quickly.
Mm-hmm. Do you think that there's, like you talked about, everyone is a musician, like everyone can sing, right? Whether or not somebody else listening will consider that a technical accomplishment in their singing or not is irrelevant. Everyone, if they've got a voice that can sing, if they've got a body they can dance, if their dance is just within them because their physical body can't move, it's still there. There's a kind of creation act. I'm wondering, in talking about, beauty and the value of music in society, or, the deluge of content, some of which we recognize as music, some of that not even made by humans. Is there a kind of perceiver role? Like, okay, so you talked about we consume more than we create. Is there a kind of creative act in listening that awakens something in music that that is a part of this puzzle here?
Yeah. Yeah. I break it down between active listening and passive listening. And active listening is not a special skill. It just is about putting our attention with a sense of curiosity, or even more simple and more radical, is you're doing one thing at a time. So these days, that's pretty radical. You're just listening, and there's no wrong way to listen. But you're putting your attention, you're giving it to that thing so that it can fully speak to you. And just doing that can be pretty profound. I think we're in a place where music is largely consumed pretty passively. Like that's sort of a business model for a lot of Spotify and so forth. This idea of background playlists, and that has its place. But if you really want to get the most out of it, yeah, you just have to. And I've done these meditations. Actually, that we have these little courses as part of the movie, Music for Mushrooms. We have this toolkit, it's called, and in there is a guided meditation to teach you. I'm just going to walk you through some music of mine. I'm like, this is what I'm doing, what I was going, my process, but it's teaching you like how you could listen to it actively and what that feels like.
Mm. I like that, what that feels like, because that seems to be what you're speaking to. It's in my experience as well. There's something in the music that it activates feelings in us. Like that's where we find the beauty and the value of it. It's not necessarily in the technicality, although the technicality plays an important role. And if you are a technically informed person, that might increase your ability to appreciate the music. But there's something in the feeling of it that is rare for myself.
That's all of it. Yeah. I mean, I think that's the whole point of it, is just cultivating feeling. And feeling is really the real way of understanding. I think ideas are more on the surface or swimming around that. But the way we really process things and grow and truly understand is through feeling, is through the body. And that's the language of music.
As a little sort of like anecdotal aside, I think coming through the pandemic, music over the last few years of my life, there were events that happened that had a significant impact that were not positive necessarily, at least not yet in hindsight, or in hindsight, still not yet positive. And I lost my connection with music for a long time for reasons because of this. And not too long ago, a friend of mine who has recently started to fall in love with music had invested in some very high fidelity audio equipment and has started doing these gatherings. I'm actually going to one this evening. He calls the speaker circle. And it's friends getting together, and we each bring some songs that we like, and we each get a chance to play those songs in this high fidelity system. And through the time that the song is on, everybody is just listening. Yeah, then when the song is done, we talk about what happened for us. And here's the anecdote. We listened to a Nirvana song off Nevermind.
Mm-hmm.
And I've probably heard the song 100 times on the radio and so on and so forth. But listening to it on vinyl on this high fidelity system, deep listening, I felt like I heard it in a way I'd never heard it before. In a way that after this evening, I felt this rejuvenation of music because of this active listening, because of this even community gathering together to really like tune in to this and to awaken with me and like, oh, I've actually only just heard this song as miscellaneous content for the last 25 years, 30 years. And now I just, for the first time, really felt it as music. I suppose, again, since I was a teenager, because I listened to that stuff when I was a teen. And I think there's a lot of value in that.